Gladiator II is not a good film. It's not a good film for reasons that have to do with film. It also has some big historical problems. And then when you add both of these together, we have a little over 2 hours of complete disaster, and I really wish I had that time back. Hi there, I am Colin Elliott. I am a Roman historian. I'm a professor of history at Indiana University, the host of the Pax Romana podcast, a podcast which covers the history of the Roman Empire. In fact, right now, we are actually in the period on which Gladiator II is loosely based on. And I'm the author of a couple of books on Roman history. The most recent of these is called Pax Romana, P-O-X, the plague that shook the Roman world. It's about the Antonine Plague, the world's first pandemic that struck under the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. So, this is my take on Gladiator II. I hope you enjoy. I really enjoyed the first Gladiator film when it came out. I didn't have high expectations of Gladiator II, but as it turned out, my expectations were a little too high. So I want to take you through this film as I saw it, both as a Roman historian and as a person that really enjoys great films. There are going to be some spoilers in this video, and I will warn you when I'm talking about spoilers, and you'll see on the screen a little spoiler icon just like this. So all you have to do is when you see that icon, just mute the video, and then when the icon goes away, you can unmute. I'll try to keep discussion of spoilers pretty short. So the first thing I want to do is just lay out a little bit of my philosophy for critiquing this film. What I don't want to provide, and what I don't really think is all that helpful, is a granular level, hypercritical, pedantic dissection of every little historical inaccuracy in this film. There's no point to doing that. This is not really a historical film. The first Gladiator film was not really a historical film either. Yes, I said it. There's a lot about that first film that's fun and enjoyable, but you have to let go of the idea that it's going to get everything right. These are not documentary films. They're big budget Hollywood films. So it doesn't make sense to evaluate films like Gladiator or Gladiator II on criteria that they do not claim. It's like playing Monopoly, using the Monopoly pieces and the Monopoly board, but with a bunch of house rules that a group of friends just wants to do, like free parking and a third dice and distributing all of the properties at the beginning of the game. Okay, insofar as you're using the original Monopoly rules, yes, we can critique you on your use of those rules. But what we can't do is just be some guy off in the corner shouting at this group of friends playing their custom Monopoly game because they aren't following the rules exactly as they were in the book. The group of friends never intended to play Monopoly in that way. So not all historical inaccuracy matters in the Gladiator films. What does matter are the historical inaccuracies that take us out of the world that the film itself creates in early 3rd century AD Rome. Now, in real Roman history, Geta and Caracalla ruled from February of 211 AD to December of that same year. The reason that their joint rule was so short is that the two brothers hated each other. Caracalla and Geta were the sons of the Emperor Septimius Severus, and there's a lot I could say about him. He hailed, for example, from northern Africa. He was a warlord and came to power by fighting a vicious and brutal civil war. He was an enemy of many senators and a friend to his soldiers, and he died in the year 211 in Great Britain. So the sons of Septimius Severus, Geta and Caracalla, are the main adversaries in this film. Now, in the film, they are not portrayed as though they hate each other. And the way that their story turns out in the film looks nothing like what really happened in history. This does not bother me at all, because the film is using Caracalla and Geta to show that Rome was decadent. It was run by incompetent and unqualified people. There was really nobody at the rudder. The Senate did not have much power, and that there was widespread suffering because people's needs were being ignored by emperors that were completely out of touch with reality. And the film versions of Caracalla and Gita use aspects of real Roman history to make that argument in ways that largely make sense in the film. And there is some rivalry in the film between the two brothers, which does matter by the end of the film, but it definitely doesn't go the way that it really went in history, and it just doesn't matter. Now, having said that, I want to talk about something which I'm sure will not be a controversial topic at all. Okay, so we're going to talk about race. This is obviously a hot topic in society broadly. It has huge political ramifications, and there have been some ongoing discussions in the film industry about how race should or shouldn't work in films, how it does or does not work in films. I'm not going to try to wade into all of that, but there are some odd choices with race in Gladiator II, so let's for a little bit keep talking about Caracalla and Gita. I mentioned that their father was from North Africa. We have images of Septimius Severus and statues, including one at my own university, Indiana University, in the museum, which show that Septimius Severus would have had darker skin. Not sub-Saharan African dark, but a deep olive hue. Septimius Severus's wife, Julia Domna, presumably the mother of Septimius's sons Caracalla and Gita, was Syrian. What this means is that Caracalla and Gita would have probably had at least olive-colored skin. And there are plenty of ancient historians that have made this point. And they're right. And so if the makers of this film wanted to be as accurate as possible, they should not have made Caracalla and Gita ghostly, pale white with blonde hair. And that's what they did. Now, to me, I don't really mind this so much because so many characters in this film have Mediterranean skin coloring. They have olive skin, or they have skin that's even darker than that. Caracalla and Gita are some of the few characters in the film that are just pasty, pale, vampire white. It makes them immediately stick out. Caracalla and Gita have this terrible makeup, and the pale skin just helps that to stick out. It just makes them look even more garish and absurd, which plays into the film's caricature of these two emperors. The first time we see them, it is obvious that there is something very different about these two guys, and it makes us pay attention to them. And so we learn very quickly, picking up on the subtleties, these two men are idiots, they are cruel and nasty, they are incompetent, and they are, for some crazy reason, ruling the city of Rome. In other words, this small choice about skin color actually helps the film accomplish one of its goals. And while Caracalla and Gita weren't in reality that white, most Roman emperors were not. So because the film announces its rules ahead of time, it tells us about decadence and how unqualified and how bad things were, I think this choice works within those rules. Let me give you another example. One of the supporting characters is Macrinus. This character is played by Denzel Washington, a man clearly with sub-Saharan African lineage, and in the movie he is a kind of middleman, social climber, kind of slave trader or gladiator trainer or something like that. He's not even in the Roman Senate, but he seems to have some ambitions and be playing games with Roman senators and even the two emperors during the film. And he has a whole backstory and a plot that the film slowly teases out. Again, like Septimius Severus, he came from North Africa, so he would have had a deep olive skin tone. He was an elite through and through, coming from an equestrian family in the Roman Empire. The equestrians are the social class just beneath senators. These were some of the richest landowners in all of the Roman Empire. They were often tapped to govern provinces. And Macrinus, under the Emperor Caracalla, found himself as head of Caracalla's Praetorian Guard, which was not just a security position. The Praetorian prefect was among the closest confidants of a Roman emperor. Virtually all of this background is done away with in the film, and I don't really care. It really is not a problem. The Macrinus in Gladiator II, and this is probably a minor spoiler, bears a grudge against some of the elite Romans in the film and is gradually revealed as a destructive force with a malevolent plan for the city of Rome. We learn that he himself was a former slave at one point and resented it. I actually thought his story arc was the most believable, the most relatable in some ways of all of the characters. He has a clear motive that animates his plans, and he carries out those plans consistent with those motives. And it actually sets up for a somewhat satisfying ending of the film. I think this is especially remarkable because Denzel Washington keeps his American accent. And if you've watched any films or TV shows about ancient Rome, you will know that for some reason Romans have British accents. And it's really jarring when an American starts speaking in a film about ancient Rome. It just doesn't quite work. But for Denzel Washington's character, it kind of does, because he is portrayed as a kind of outsider. They don't make any commentary about his race and the extent to which that contributed to enslavement or his grudges or anything like that, and I think that was a smart idea. The fact is, race worked very differently in the Roman world. It did not have the same kinds of baggage that it does in the modern Western world, especially where the legacy of race-based slavery, race-based struggles for civil rights, all of those things still have a kind of lingering effect on the way in which we see race in our present society. And it's not as though race did not matter in the ancient Roman Empire, but the connections between, say, race and slavery just are not there, and the baggage just was not. And I think it's great that the film did not try to put any of that in Denzel Washington's character. It's what made it work, and it made us not really care about the fact that Denzel Washington had darker skin. Now, there is one demographic that we see in virtually every Hollywood film that was not present in Gladiator II. There was no young female lead, and as a consequence, there was really no romance. Now, it's Gladiator II. It's not a rom-com. It's a film about fighting and blood and Roman politics and senators and all of that. So there's not a lot of room for a kind of romantic subplot. In the first film, the way that this worked was Maximus, the main character, his wife and child are killed, and the romantic interest is a kind of old flame in Marcus Aurelius's daughter, Lucilla, played by Connie Nelson. And Maximus clearly has some old feelings for her, and she has some old feelings for him, but she also has loyalty to her son. Maximus, of course, doesn't have his family anymore, and this just creates some tension. It's kind of convoluted in the first film, but it does try at least to teach us some things about the characters. And that's one of the things that romance can do in a film like this, is it can help us in a very efficient way understand a character's motives, see them more as a human being, learn about their ability to control themselves, for example, learn about their priorities and ideals. We don't have that in Gladiator II. The main female lead in Gladiator II is again Connie Nelson, but she's much older. She's more of a matron-like figure, and the tension that she has with the main character, and this is probably not a spoiler, but it might be, I guess, a minor one, is that she is the main character's mother. She sent him away after the death of the Emperor Commodus and the death of, I guess, his original father, Maximus. The film says that main character's father is actually Maximus from Gladiator I. There are no hints of this whatsoever in the first film. It seems to be a plot point that's just invented to add intrigue in the second film. So there is kind of the relationship between the main character in Gladiator II, whose name is Hanno, but he is also Lucius from Gladiator I. So there's tension between him and his mother, Connie Nelson, like, will he forgive her for sending him away? Which, this is just one of these weird incoherencies in the film. Why would Connie Nelson's character send her son away after the first Gladiator? Okay, there's a kind of tragic ending in the sense that the main character, Maximus, dies, but he takes out Commodus. And now supposedly the Senate's in charge, and the dream of Rome that Marcus Aurelius had of a functioning republic presumably should have been restored. Why on earth would she need to send her child away and basically abandon him? And this doesn't make any sense, because in the first film, she actually betrays Maximus so that she can save the life of her son. And then in Gladiator II, they just suddenly have her send her son away and never see him again, such that he actually almost forgets who she is and who he was and takes on a new name and just lives off in the deserts of North Africa. It makes no sense. So we have no kind of romance in the story, and the main character's interaction with the leading female is this totally contrived story about, will this guy forgive his mother or not? And quite frankly, he shouldn't. I mean, why on earth did she abandon him? Who knows? So instead of adding complexity to the characters, the way in which the main male and the main female interact is just totally convoluted and senseless. Now, there is briefly in the beginning of the film a younger female character who we learn because in a ham-fisted way, the story pounds us over the head with the fact that the main character, Hanno, and this woman are in love and that they are married. So they're about to fight a battle, and this is the moment that for some reason they decide to give rings to each other. And by the way, she's like a warrior woman. So she has like custom armor. Now again, this is the kind of thing that just takes you right out of the film. Would it have been the case that on very rare occasions that women might have fought in battles in the Roman Empire? Yeah. But this woman is like more of a bro to the main character. Like they've got like matching armor. They show very little affection to each other. They're just kind of fighting alongside of each other in the film. And she dies in the film's opening battle while she is fighting. There's no reason that this even needed to be a woman. Like, it could have been a guy. She's basically a comrade in arms with this guy. So although they try to tell us that there's a romantic relationship here with rings, there really is no affection or romance or anything between these two. And so it's just not believable for the rest of the film that this guy cares about this woman as his wife. And this is something that the first Gladiator film did a lot better. We don't actually know anything about Maximus's wife and child that are killed in that film. We know very little. We just see them pretty much. We don't hear much about them. We don't know about their background. They are portrayed relentlessly as family, as home. And Maximus, when he talks about them, especially before they died, he just wants to get to them. Like, they are his people, they are his center, and we don't really need to know as much about them because we can get a sense. The film makes it very clear that Maximus cares more about them than he cares about anything else, including the Roman army, including war, including being the Roman emperor. He just wants to go to his family, and his family are shown as waiting for him. They're there. They're on his estate somewhere in Italy. They're smiling. They're happy. The kid's playing. And so it's really jarring when they are murdered in cold blood. And when Maximus finally reunites with his family, he's reunited with their burned corpses. In the first Gladiator, Maximus lovingly buries his wife and child. We just see him like exhausted in front of the places where he buries them. In Gladiator II, the main character finds his wife's body floating outside the city after the war, and he just kind of leaves it. He breaks an arrow off that killed her, and then he just leaves her body. Now, the bodies of all of the victims are burned after the battle, so maybe he didn't want her body to be burned, but what? He wanted it to be eaten by fish slowly in the ocean? There's just no sense that this guy actually really does care about this woman. So in Gladiator, there are these moments where we see his family waiting for him in eternity. They try to do that same thing in Gladiator II, but again, it just doesn't work. We don't care about this woman who died at the beginning of the film. In fact, if anything, we just learned that the main character, Hanno, hates Rome, and he's mad that they killed his wife, but what really made her his wife? Really, she was his bro. She was really his buddy in war. Like we don't see this woman representing home. She's more like a coworker to him or something like that. Again, she's more like somebody he does things with. There's no sense of like the domestic with this relationship. And this is not a criticism of like the lack of a traditional gender role for this woman. It's just that the film does not portray her as being his center in the way that Gladiator portrays Maximus's family as being his center, his home. And that just makes this relationship not meaningful for the audience. The battles and battle scenes and fighting and violence make up a huge part of this film. Some of this works well, some of it doesn't. I mean, I like the scenes of the arena. Some of the fight scenes were really good. There's a fight, and this is a minor spoiler, between the main character, Hanno, and the Roman general, Acacius, who is the same general who led the Romans against Hanno's city in the battle which led to the death of, again, presumably his wife, this woman who he maybe cares about. Anyway, so they have a real like kind of personal and intense fight in the arena. And there's some tension in that fight because we know, the audience knows, that Acacius is actually a good guy. He's overall a good guy. And he's the new husband of Hanno's mother, Lucilla. And so we kind of don't want either of them to die. And we're hoping that somehow in the fight, they're both going to survive, and that maybe even Hanno will realize that Acacius isn't his real enemy. So we're invested in the fight, and like the choreography of the fight is actually interesting because Acacius is trying not to kill Hanno, the main character, and so he's having to fight in ways which, defend or block Hanno without actually mortally injuring him. And it makes for a really interesting fight. I also liked the naval battle at the beginning. I thought it was done pretty well. The loudness of the waves crashing into the ships and the flames of the projectiles shot into the ships, all of that really was very believable. And again, yes, we could critique that the city is using trebuchets, which were not available to the Romans at this time. So, okay, like on a technicality, that's a problem. And I saw that, right? And it kind of took me out of the scene because it's like, why is there a trebuchet here? And especially when they were using like normal catapults, which they would have had. So that's just a minor thing. It probably wouldn't have bothered most other people. But overall, I thought that battle had some real drama to it, and the effects were cool. And some of the battles in the arena were like that, but some of them were just totally fantastical and just silly. And the CGI was very bad. Like there are these killer monkeys that they fight towards the beginning of the film, and they just look fake. They have huge, exaggerated teeth and mouths, and they move in these like lightning quick ways. And it just looks like a cartoon. It just looks like a Marvel film or something. And it was just totally not believable. I did not at any time believe that the characters were in any serious danger. Or there's one point closer to midway through the film where there is a guy riding a giant rhinoceros in the arena. And again, I get the idea. It's something that maybe was unexpected, but it's also just totally unrealistic. There were rhinos in Roman arenas, we know that, but the idea of somebody kind of riding one and being able to control it just seemed a bit fanciful, and just the way that it looked was weird. And then there are the sharks, which I know other people have talked about. Again, it's unexpected, right? You flood the Colosseum with water, there's a ship battle in the arena, and if anyone falls into the water, there are these super hungry, aggressive killer sharks waiting in the water. right? And again, that's unexpected and maybe interesting, but when a person like me watches that movie, right, the sharks just activate a part of my brain, which is like, wait a second, how did those sharks get there? How do you get a shark into an arena in Rome? Like, they don't have tanks. Could they try to lift a shark in a crane? But how are they going to do that? And why are these sharks hyper aggressive? Wouldn't they just be terrified that they're like in the arena? Would they just kind of zone out and go to sleep almost, just kind of overwhelmed with all of the sensory input? I mean, maybe they would just like immediately kill anything that possibly falls into the water, which is what they do in the film. I don't know. It's just one of these things where my brain just starts thinking about why is this happening? And it just takes you out. So it really undermines the effect that the filmmakers were obviously going for, which was, look at these cool sharks. I'm sorry, I just can't go there. So it's hard for a film to be successful when its main character is written without any real consistency. His motives are convoluted, he is unstable, his role changes, and he has talents and abilities that were not established in the film. All of these things happen with the main character, Hanno, or we might also call him Lucius. For example, one of the things about that monkey battle I find really interesting is they try to use it to show the main character Hanno's like resilience and toughness. So he realizes that he is fighting this killer monkey who just thinks primally and in terms of like dominance. And so instead of like taking a roundabout way of fighting the monkey, he decides to bite the monkey and then growl at it. Like he will use dirty tactics to win. And this is all happening in the arena for people's entertainment. So he's perfectly willing to behave this way in that setting. And then literally like 5 minutes or less later, he begins his training as a gladiator. And then suddenly his character completely changes. Like, he does not want to do the training. He just acts insubordinate. He doesn't want to do things for people's entertainment. And Macrinus, who is running the gladiator training school or building or whatever it is that he's in, says to one of his henchmen, all right, like, show him a lesson. And the henchman has got these like primitive, almost like boxing gloves on. And they give a pair of boxing gloves to Hanno, and he just like throws them down. So 5 minutes earlier, he was willing to do whatever it took to win and be resilient and fight and do this for people's entertainment and for survival. And then suddenly he's not. By the way, just after this fight between the henchman and the main character Hanno, Macrinus says that he wants all the new gladiators hosed down, which you're just thinking, again, this is just one of those anachronisms that matters because it totally takes you out of the film. Hose. There was no such thing as a hose, right, in ancient Rome. What are they going to do? Just take the garden hose and hook it up to the spout and turn the plumbing on and have the water from the city come out in high pressure and jet this guy down? No, of course not. At no point do we really understand what the main character is. And again, I think the assumption is that he is Maximus from the first film, but obviously he doesn't really have the same backstory and background as Maximus. Maximus in the first film was a general, a man who had a long record of service, and clearly was very good at what he did, such that he became close to the emperor, and he was a man of integrity as well, which is why Marcus Aurelius trusted him. Hanno is different. Hanno is a privileged son of Lucilla, Marcus Aurelius's daughter, and therefore he is Marcus Aurelius's grandson, but he gets jetted away from the palace for inexplicable reasons as a young child, and then he gets raised like out in the desert. He is not a military man in any way, and although at the beginning of the film he is fighting in this battle in Numidia, he does not appear to be a general or a commander or anything like that. But then suddenly, as soon as he's a gladiator, he's just like Maximus. In the first Gladiator film, Maximus used his military skills, which were established earlier in the movie, so it made sense that he would be able to rally these gladiators and slaves into like formations and get them to organize and do things at times, and they would trust him because it worked. And then in the second Gladiator film, our main character, Hanno, has none of this background, and yet starts doing this immediately. So they're in the arena with the rhinoceros that is being ridden by another gladiator, and Hanno speaks to the gladiators around him who are going to be mowed down by this rhinoceros, and he starts telling them, hold, and he gives them instructions about like when they're supposed to move and what they're supposed to do, and they all just kind of instinctively trust him apart from one guy. And he just seems to know how to organize men, and also, by the way, how to face rhinoceroses, which who knows when he would have seen one of those before. I mean, maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't. Again, none of this is established. They're just kind of inventing all of these skills for the character just because it's needed in that moment to advance the plot. It just doesn't make sense. He's able to do this again during the naval battle, so suddenly he knows how to row a ship and maneuver a ship and tell men what to do. Again, it doesn't make sense. We have no idea where all of this knowledge comes from unless he's just this immensely talented person who just happens to have whatever skills he needs in order to just make the movie move forward. This is poor writing. So within 2 fights, he's shown that he's some very impressive general, both on land and on sea. He has all these magical skills that we never saw before in the film. He also earns the trust of all of these slaves, so much so that they're basically willing to risk their life for him. In the naval battle, something happens where the lives of the emperors become threatened, and it becomes obvious that one of the gladiators had done this thing to threaten the emperor's life, but Macrinus and his henchmen don't know which of the ones did it. So after the battle, the henchman goes and says, which of you did this thing? And all of the gladiators, like there are like 20 or 30 of them there, say, oh, I did it, right? So in other words, you can't know who did it because they all say that they did it, which is of course totally derivative of the movie Spartacus. There's this famous part of the film where the Roman commander is trying to find out who Spartacus is, and everybody says, I am Spartacus, right? And the idea is we're not going to tell you who Spartacus is. It works in that film because we see Spartacus over a long period of time earning the trust of all of these men. Whereas Hanno in Gladiator II has just fought 2 battles with these guys. And he's kind of an insubordinate jerk. It makes no sense that they're suddenly willing to basically risk their lives, or at least risk a pretty big beating, in order to protect this guy. It makes no sense. Probably the culmination of this totally out of left field, making Lucius a general somehow without any explanation, happens near the end of the film. And this is a bit of a spoiler here. So Acacius has an army outside of Rome that's coming, which he's going to use to overthrow the emperor. One of the things I liked about this plot point initially, near the beginning of the film, is that Acacius emphasizes that this army is loyal to him personally, and that he's going to use it to overthrow the emperors. This is really fitting not only with the period historically as it was, but it's also fitting with the way the film portrays this world. Politics is cutthroat, that there are plots all over the place, and that the soldiers are personally loyal to their commanders. And because of this loyalty, we get the sense that Acacius will be successful if this army can just make it to Rome after a few days. The problem is, and this is the big spoiler, Acacius is killed. So his army is coming, but there's actually nobody to command it. And Hanno just steps in and is like, yeah, I'll command the army. Just tell them that it's me. I'm Lucius, the grandson of Marcus Aurelius. Let them know and they'll just like immediately follow me. And I guess evidently he'll know how to command thousands of Roman soldiers, which he's never done. This makes no sense, neither from a historical perspective, nor does it make sense in the logic of the movie. The movie established that these soldiers are personally loyal to Acacius. Why would they suddenly follow this guy they don't know who just claims to be the grandson of Marcus Aurelius? Big deal. Marcus Aurelius' regime is dead and gone. The movie makes that point. They say in the beginning that Marcus Aurelius' dream of a republican Rome is basically dead. And by the way, if the soldiers are personally loyal to Acacius and many other soldiers are personally loyal to their own commanders, why would the appeal to a dead emperor or even his ideological desire to have a republic move these soldiers at all to commit treason against the two reigning emperors in a war which they could very well lose? Again, it just makes no sense. And then, at the end of the movie, they reverse this whole thing yet again. And again, this is a big spoiler. Lucius is victorious in the end, and he makes a speech which is effectively like, I'm not a general. I don't really know what I'm doing. So he doesn't want to be a general, but then he did want to be a general, and he had the skills to be a general, which we don't know where those come from because prior to all of this, he's just some dude in the North African desert. And before that, he's a child in Gladiator I. Totally goofy, senseless. It breaks my brain. In addition to the main male character not making any sense, the main female character, Lucilla, also does not make sense, and her character is just weird in this film. It's like Lucilla's betrayal in the last film is completely forgotten in this film. So there's a point at which her new husband, this general, Acacius, is going to have his army come and attack Rome in what would be a coup against the two emperors, Caracalla and Geta. They involve Lucilla in this plot, and they reiterate in the dialogue that they believe in her because she's the daughter of Marcus Aurelius. They trusted him, and so they're going to trust her. But of course, everybody knew that she betrayed them the last time. It's not clear at all why she is suddenly trustworthy now. If anything, the woman is less trustworthy. She initially made a pact in Gladiator I with the Senate and with Maximus. She then reneged on that for the benefit of her son, who she then immediately gave away and never saw again. Why on earth would you believe a word that this woman ever says, involve her in anything, and have anything to do with her? But we're all supposed to believe that she's suddenly trustworthy again, without any explanation. Part of the plot between Hanno or Lucius and his mother is that he's really mad at her, for good reason. And eventually in the film, and this is a minor spoiler, he forgives her. But we don't really know why. He just kind of decides to forgive her after her husband, Acacius, dies, who Hanno wanted killed because that guy was responsible for the death of his wife. And I have to say, if you're going to forgive your mother for sending you away and like abandoning you in the desert when you're a child and never speaking to you or anything, the film should give some reason. And it really doesn't. Certainly not one that is overt. And this is just one of those examples of the film just making something happen because it kind of needed to for the plot. So there needs to be affection between Hanno and his mother, so they just manufacture it. Now, the whole reconciliation scene is also totally bizarre and doesn't make sense because at this point in the film, and this is a minor spoiler, Lucilla is actually held captive. She is in a cell. At least we see her that way not 2 minutes after this scene, and it's clear that she can't get out. So then how did she get to see her son just prior to this? She is somehow able to go and just waltz in without a guard or anything into the cells in the Colosseum and talk with her son and have a kind of reconciliation with him. But at that point, she was already captive and was a prisoner. And we see later on that she can't get out of her cell. So how did she get out of her cell to go and just freely walk and meet with her son, who's also in a cell? Did she just decide that she was going to escape only to go see her son? How did she escape? And then why, if she escaped, did she go back in the cell? Or if she didn't escape, did they let her out to go see her son? Why did they let her out to go do that? And then let her back in, but then not let her out later? Again, it doesn't make any sense. Goofy stuff in the film. Now, I already said that I find Macrinus's arc sort of the most believable or the most relatable, but at the same time, there are some real problems here too. So he's understandable in his beginning and then in his end. and his motives are made somewhat clear in the film, although they're still pretty obfuscated. But exactly how his rise works functionally is not explained in the film, and it kind of needed to be. He is portrayed initially in the film as a kind of social climber, a man of modest means, but they make it clear that he is not in the Senate, so he's not necessarily a power broker in Rome, but he is influential and he has some money. But just by virtue of him bringing some gladiators to Rome, he gets to sit with the emperors and the most high-ranked senators, and he gets to talk with them and eat with them, and suddenly he's like in the inner circle. And that is strange because the whole point of his arc is he's rising up from a very low position, working his way through the social hierarchy until he climbs up to the very, very top. But the means by which this happened is not really explained. Like, he's the gladiator trainer, which would be at best like a mid to low level person, not even in the Senate, and then something. He's then now magically with the emperor and the senators. Again, just simply does not make sense. Another thing about Macrinus I don't fully understand, or that at least took me out of the film a bunch, was that he seems to be a terrible gladiator trainer. So how did he get so successful? It seems like really without this new gladiator that he gets in Hanno, who becomes very popular, the main character, this guy seems terrible at managing gladiators. For example, the whole reason that this guy gets invited to be with the emperors and sit with them in Rome is because he brings gladiators to these celebratory games that happen over the course of days, and his gladiators fight in the arena over the course of each of these days, including Hanno. So after having Hanno beat up pretty badly the first day, which again, why would you have your gladiators beat up if you need them to perform well in the arena within hours after that? You wouldn't want to do that at all. On the next day, he has Hanno and the other gladiators row on like a rowing machine. It's like a simulated rowing machine. Again, who knows if something like this existed? It doesn't matter that much, but it's a little bit weird. But because Hanno is so intransigent and disobedient and insubordinate, they decide to have him row the whole machine on his own. And this is a machine for like 6, 7, 8 people. So it would have been horrible. So they have him rowing the machine by himself during the day. They cut away and then they come back and it's getting dark and he's still rowing the machine. And this thing clearly looks like it is heavy, like every row is hard. So what, was he rowing it for hours? Why would you want your top gladiator, the whole reason that you are this successful and are being invited to be with the emperors, and by the way, you have an entire plot where you're trying to climb up the social ladder, why then would you undermine your own gladiator by making him so tired from rowing this machine yourself? I mean, even just a few rows by himself would have probably torn this guy's muscles. And for him to be doing it for hours, presumably, I don't even know how he could have even lifted his own arms up in the air, let alone hold a sword in battle. And it's the day after this that he has this huge epic battle. I mean, this guy evidently just never needs to rest, and he's just got superhuman strength and endurance, or that Macrinus is actually totally incompetent as a trainer of gladiators. These are a lot of kind of the major things that made this film very difficult to watch. There are so many just small things throughout. The gold coins, they cling like they're plastic. They don't sound like gold. Macrinus claims to know all of the languages of the Roman world, and yet he can't figure out where Hanno is from. That makes no sense. There are weird times where soldiers will just ignore the people that they're supposedly chasing after. There's a point in the film where there's about 20 or maybe even 30 men all dressed exactly the same in black cloaks running through the city with torches at night. It would be impossible to discern which of these men was which, and yet these soldiers are able to, in the dark, fire arrows and ambush this group, and they're able to kill every single person but the prominent character that happens to be with them. Again, how they're able to pick him out and not hit him with an arrow is amazing, especially when they're all firing arrows from all around. Like, these people are super accurate suddenly. I don't know, they have X-ray vision, I guess. Like, there's just so many things like this. And even some of the elites, like, think that people should be free. I don't understand this. Like, Connie Nelson's character, Lucilla, at one point gives a speech about how it would be great if the Roman people were free. That just seems like an odd thing to want, and she didn't want that in the first film. She just wanted her kid to be safe. She didn't care at all about the Roman people. In fact, she kind of disdained them in the first film. What explains the change in her character? Nothing. Hannah's transformation really is weird in the film. He spends half of the movie hating Rome and mad at Roman generals, and he even says to Macrinus early on in the film that he wants to kill a bunch of Romans. But by the end of the film, he really likes Rome now, and he wants Rome to be free and wants everybody to be happy, even though a bunch of the people that are close to him are dead. But earlier in the film, it was just the death of his wife that made him hate Rome. By the end of the film, he's lost a lot more people that are close to him, but he loves Rome now. Again, it just doesn't make sense. At one point in the film, Lucilla is called a queen. Now, maybe this is me being persnickety, but Rome explicitly does not have kings and queens. Even under the emperors who had absolute autocratic authority, they did not dare to call themselves kings or queens. Another bit of historical inaccuracy that is less of a problem because it's inaccurate, but more of a problem because it's just jarring, are the scenes in restaurants. Now, Rome almost certainly had something like restaurants. In Pompeii, for example, we have establishments where food and drink was served, and it was served both inside and outside at tables. Like, this is something like a restaurant. I don't object to having characters in this film meet at restaurants. What is weird is just the way the restaurant is portrayed feels modern. Like, if these people were not dressed in togas and they were dressed in modern clothes, you would think that they were on the streets of a city in modern Italy. And that's a little bit weird. They have menus, or they have maybe even newspapers. They're like this paper or parchment or papyrus document that they're sometimes reading. And again, I don't know what that is. And it's just one of these things where it just takes you out of the scene. It takes you out of the movie because it suddenly becomes about the modern day. Like, the setting and the mood feels more modern than ancient. And so you stop for a minute believing the fiction, or at least your brain subtly questions the world that the film is trying to put in front of you, which just takes you out of the film. Here's something too that I imagine not everybody picked up on because, again, you're just expecting it, but it actually really took me out. Throughout the film, writing and inscriptions tend to be in Latin. Of course they would be. It's ancient Rome. But at one point, a very important memorial is shown in the film. A memorial that references an important character in this universe. And it's at this point that the inscription is in English, not Latin. And there have been inscriptions in Latin throughout the film, so you're kind of expecting that. And then it's weird that suddenly we have the English language. And again, it just kind of causes your brain to sort of stutter as you're watching the film. So apart from some neat fighting scenes, some okay development of Macrinus's character, although with some objections and caveats, some good sound, and some nice sets, this film truly was a disaster. It was bad history, it was bad storytelling, the character development makes no sense or was non-existent. It is a giant steaming mess of a film. As you can tell, this film was just a really challenging one for me to enjoy, and I was predisposed to enjoying it. I like ancient Rome. It's what I study. I kind of liked the first Gladiator film. There were a few problems with it, but overall, I enjoy the film. But Gladiator II attempted to recapture the magic of that first film, and it just fell short. There are narrative issues, character development issues, and just a variety of other challenges that just make this film not all that enjoyable. It starts with some promising action, and there's some great sound in the film. The CGI, however, is not very good, and it is bogged down by inconsistencies in the plot, a lack of character depth, or in some cases, just characters that just simply don't make sense. There are the expected historical inaccuracies And that's fine. I can get over some of them, but there are others that are so jarring that I think they would even take a person out of the film, a viewer who is just casually familiar with the Roman Empire and maybe the ancient world. I just think there are some things that would just kind of, without their brain even really overtly telling them that that's why they're being pulled out, but these things will ultimately pull a person out. Character motivations, especially for Lucius, are muddled with his sudden shifts in allegiance, and his mother is also just not a very well-written character. There are huge inconsistencies between this film and what we know about these characters in the first film, and really, it's just kind of funny because in many ways this film is derivative of that first film. There are a lot of kind of beat for beat similarities between Gladiator II and Gladiator I, but there is just simply it's like a dim echo that's kind of badly done. Really nothing about the second film is an improvement on the first film, and the derivative parts just kind of stick out as exactly that. Overall, I just think this film struggles to blend the kind of epic spectacle that we saw in the trailer with coherent storytelling. And this left me, and I think probably leaves other folks that have seen this film, with a sense of missed potential, although I'm not even sure that there needed to be a Gladiator II. I mean, Gladiator 1 just ends in a satisfactory way. I'm not sure that this film is necessary, and it kind of comes across that way. I wonder if that was in kind of the subconscious of the people that were making the film, which is kind of like, why do we really need to make this film anyway, apart from you know what? So yeah, this just did not do it for me, and I hope that you enjoyed this review. Thank you for sticking with me. This has been quite a long one. Check out my podcast, the Pax Romana podcast. Maybe you'll pick up a copy of my book. Anyway, thank you very much. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment as well. Take care. We'll see you next time.